Viking, giant, pioneer. Fran Tarkenton was all of that and more. He helped revolutionize his position, proving that a quarterback could create offense by running for yards as well as passing for them. But Tarkenton used his legs to complement his potent arm and ended his career as one of the most prolific passers of all time. At the heart of the team's climb toward contention was the young quarterback who credited his tactics to a 1961 preseason encounter with the Chicago Bears.
They beat me to death. I mean, they bloodied me. And I said, I've got to do something. I've got to change how this position is played, or we're not going to win a game. I had athletic ability, I had some quickness, I had good sense of where I was on the field, and I just didn't accept the sack. I started using my athletic ability and my scrambling to buy me time to be able to throw the football, and it became my trademark. It was an unwritten rule for quarterbacks not to go out of the pocket because the defensive linemen weren't in great shape in those days. They didn't want to run. Especially you go out in the Coliseum, you play Deacon and Merlin Olsen and Lamar Lundy, on a hot day in Los Angeles, and here I come out there running all over the field, and they got to run all over the field and chase me. I think I drove them nuts. And if you kind of went out of the pocket, they'd find a way to try to get you. And they tried to find a way to try to get me. They never did, though. I thought a quarterback should use his ability. He just didn't have to stay in the pocket. So I thought to use my ability to maneuver, to run, to gain yards, to pick up a first down, whatever I had to do, I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. So a quarterback ought to be able to make first downs, make that team, drive that team, get first downs, and get points on the board. A great quarterback can take a bad team and make them respectable.
My dad started out as a general reporter with the Minneapolis Star, and he got to cover the Vikings for many, many years. I would get to go, even at age 8, I was going to the games with my dad, and even younger. Fran Tarkenton. It was probably the first name I ever learned in football. Fran Tarkenton was really the first model of the mobile quarterback. He would just go all around, run all around, and play in a different way. I always thought of him as the scrambler, the guy that was always running back and forth on the field, and we'd watch him. He's going there, he's going there, he's going down the middle. He also was a very smart guy and someone that was just in a little different mold than the other quarterbacks. It just made him different, and I think much more exciting. Remember a funny story about one of the Viking players, Grady Alderman? One of the opposing players was down on the field, and he tried to tackle Tarkenton 3 times in one play. And so he finally was giving up. He's laying down, wheezing on the field, and Alderman looks at him and says, "What are you doing?" He's still out running. And the guy says, "Well, I'm just waiting. He'll come back here at one point."
As quarterback of the expansion Minnesota Vikings, Fran Tarkenton's escape act was born out of self-preservation. Tarkenton's improvisational style thrilled the fans, but irritated Minnesota's old-school head coach, Norm Van Brocklin.
Van Brocklin didn't like when Tarkenton would sometimes go off on his own when it was 3rd down. And in fact, my dad remembers Van Brocklin telling Tarkenton, 3rd and 8 is no time to get creative.
The Vikings eventually traded Tarkenton to the cellar-dwelling Giants. For the next 5 years, Fran's frantic style helped New York regain respectability. In 1972, Tarkenton was traded back to Minnesota, where he finished his career having thrown more passes for more yards and more touchdowns than any quarterback in league history. Despite his record numbers, one accomplishment continually eluded the elusive Tarkenton.
We played in the big game, and we lost all 3 times that I quarterbacked. I have never gotten over that. I never have a day go by that I don't regret not being able to do something more to help my team win a Super Bowl. We don't look at quarterbacks as being worth very much if they're not on a Super Bowl winning team. But we went to 3 Super Bowls in 7 years and won 6 division championships, and I was proud to be a part of that.
I think greatness is more than just being great yourself. It's being able to make other people great and making a team great. And that was something that Fran Tarkenton did. We have to remember those players that played for a good team but just didn't happen to win the Super Bowl. When he left the league, he was the all-time record holder of every passing record there was. So that alone puts him in the top 100. So I always remember that number 10 with that purple jersey, trying so hard, running back and forth across that field, doing everything just to win that game. And it will be a memory that I will take forever.
Of the 70s, Fran Tarkenton.
Number 2.
I'd say the first thing that comes to my mind in the 70s would be, I don't know.
You have to put him in a category all of his own.
Let me think.
His mobility changed the defenses.
I'm just so flustered.
First of his kind in terms of quarterback who could beat you with his feet as well as his arm.
I mean, come on. Fran Tarkenton, baby.
I don't have enough hands to clap when you say his name. I need more hands.
Sometimes you just wanted to say, throw the damn ball.
While his freewheeling style had others tripping, Fran Tarkenton made it to number 2 on our list by having the most passing yards and touchdowns and the highest completion percentage in the decade.
He was like the little kid in the backyard, who just came up with plays and say, you go here and you go there, and don't worry about it. I'll make time so you can get open. He absolutely drove defensive players crazy.
Tarkenton was a pain in the ass. He'd gamble. He'd run anywhere. I mean, he'd run up in the stands if he had to. On a hot day in the Coliseum, chasing Fran Tarkenton is not what you wanted to do.
I always hated Tarkenton. I really did. I mean, that little wimp would run around out there for hours and hours and hours.
I was always distressed when I saw quarterbacks, when their protection broke down, just to give up and fold themselves in the pocket and accept the 7 or 8 yard loss and go to the next play. And I just made up my mind when I got up to pro football that I was not going to give up on the play ever.
The face of Francis Tarkenton, perhaps the best quarterback in football today, one of the best of all time.
Though our number 2 quarterback won 6 division titles in the 70s, going 0 for 3 in the Super Bowl was a real bummer.
He was a great quarterback. But again, when it came down to the ultimate test, he didn't win it.
Sometimes you think you'll never get to the Super Bowl, then when you get there, you think you never will win it.
Every team you lost to was better. The 73 Dolphins.
The Dolphins have now established clear superiority in this game.
The 74 Steelers.
World champion, number 1.
The 76 Raiders. They were all better. Not even debatable. No question about it.
A tremendous quarterback, and I would never penalize him for not winning a championship.
After all those Super Bowls Fran Tarkenton lost, I think he should be happy to be the second best quarterback.
To have a guy with 4 rings versus a guy with no rings, you can't have Tarkenton ahead of Bradshaw.
I'm surprised you were smart enough to rate him that high, because most people don't get it.
Do you?
Remember, when he retired from the game, he held all 4 major passing records in attempts, completions, yards, and touchdowns.
Fran rolls to the right, that's it out, caught by Ford, a touchdown! Fran Tarkenton's record-breaking 291st career touchdown pass.
Should he be ahead of Terry Bradshaw?
I can't put him ahead of Stabler. I just can't.
No.
Well, I don't know who could be 1 if he's 2, because he was the best.
There once was a time when quarterbacks were statues, sitting ducks. The position was played from the pocket, and when it collapsed, you stood tall and took a beating. Then, this son of a preacher man, Francis Asbury Tarkenton, did something that changed the world. He scrambled.
is the greatest scrambler in the league. One of the reasons why coaches call Tark the most exciting quarterback in a decade.
Tarkenton again scrambling. He can really move. Passing. Throwing deep for a touchdown.
When did you have time to work on your scramble?
I had to do it between 1 o'clock Sunday and 5 o'clock Sunday night.
Dodging the Sunday school teacher?
If I just was a pocket quarterback, I'd have never made it. You know, I was 6 foot, 185 pounds. Didn't have the strongest arm in the world. It wasn't to run, it was to buy time to throw.
You're scrambling to throw.
It allowed my receivers more time to go and get open.
All dual threat quarterbacks, including my dad, owe Fran a debt of gratitude. It's funny, Fran, back when you played, it was kind of like you were some kind of radical. Oh, all he does is scramble. But now, Patrick Mahomes,
just stop it.
Turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Russell Wilson, I mean, that's you. That's Fran Tarkenton.
What a great play by Russell Wilson. That was shades of Fran Tarkenton right there, the way he was pirouetting.
3rd down and 30.
Fran was a football genius, I thought, and he would take the ball, and if the guy wasn't open,
Tarkenton scrambling.
he would run or buy time until he found an open guy.
Finally. No, still scrambling. Now he throws. Almost intercepted and deflected into the arms of Preston Carpenter.
So it was a matter of survival for Fran.
I think my legacy has been damaged. I think the legacy of my teammates have been damaged, and the legacy of the Minnesota Vikings have been damaged for some reason because we didn't win those Super Bowls.
Fran Tarkenton played 2 more seasons, completed 500 more passes, and the Vikings found ways to win 2 more division titles. But the core group of this great team had played in its final championship.
I never have a day go by that I don't regret not being able to do something more to help my team win a Super Bowl.
And when he retired, you might have to check this out, but he threw 20-some touchdown passes his last year. He had some life left in him even when he retired. But he picked a good time, and he went out on top. And from my evaluation standpoint, as a quarterback, he was the greatest.